Welcome to the Sojourner podcast, where I, Isadora James, read a portion of my book for free until I can get enough subscribers, where we will be on our path to getting it published in a hard copy version. Right now, I'm trying to build up support for that because it's expensive to self publish. And I think my work belongs out in the world, and this is me sharing it and hoping that it reaches the right audience. So today's portion I am reading is from chapter 1. And as a warning of consent and content, I will let you know that there are mature themes dealing with the emotional, psychological, and physical abuse of parental and children relationships, as well as death, grief, and loss, and incorporating that through trauma and healing. Now, this is steeped in a magical realism sense, so there are supernatural aspects as well. Today, she'd woken up, dragged herself out of bed at the first light filtered through the curtains, and padded into the kitchen. The old routine kicked in without thought. Reach for the pan, crack the eggs, watch the yolks slide and sizzle in the oil. The sound of frying filled the air, sharp and constant, and her mind drifted as it always did. Another day, another breakfast. Her stupid, bookish husband would shuffle in, sit at the table, barely mumble a thanks, and that would be it. For the millionth time, she'd serve him and pretend it didn't hollow a little more out of her with every step. The egg crackled in the pan, the heat rising, the edges browning like her patience. Her hand hovered over the spatula, but she hesitated, staring at the frying egg. The smell, the mundane, greasy scent of it filled the air, and something twisted deep inside of her. She couldn't do it anymore. The act of flipping that egg, placing it on a plate, what did it mean? What had it ever meant? Her fingers tightened around the spatula. It was stupid, all of it. The movements felt mechanical now, like a dance she'd long grown weary of. Each flip, each scrape of the pan echoed louder in her mind, the repetitive clatter like the clicking and ticking of a clock, reminding her how mundane this existence was compared to the life she'd lived 5 years ago. Her daughter, the prophecy. That was why she was doing all of this. If her daughter couldn't access the power through gentle, nurturing nudges, then maybe it was time for something more. She stared at the spatula and then at the egg, her eyes narrowing. The thought settled in her chest, heavy and certain. She didn't need to pretend anymore. Her grip loosened and the spatula clattered to the counter. The sound startled her, but she didn't move. Instead, she stood there motionless, the realization seeping in slowly, the monotony of her life, of her serving her husband, playing the role she was supposed to play. And it was all a lie, all of it, and she was done pretending. She turned away from the stove, letting the egg burn in the pan behind her, the smell of the scorching oil rising thick in the air. Her gaze shifted to the hallway, where her daughter slept, unaware of the shift that had taken place. A cruel smile crept across her lips. If her daughter wouldn't find her power through kindness, she would find it through force. Today had to be different. Today, everything changed. So that is a portion from chapter 1 of my book, The Sojourner. Now, this is the first book of a series, and it is now available on Patreon. And for Patreon members alone, they will have access to an extended version of the book. But if you're not a member, if you're just there to get the book, it's $10.10. Very reasonable price. I'm very into like numbers. The book was published on 10/10/24 and I priced it at 10/10 and everything got set up at 10/10 a.m. So I just wanted to invite you all to go check out that book. As I get more support with more subscribers and more funding, then I can get the beautiful hard copy edition that I want out in the world. And if you can see here, my color scheme is incorporated in this room. So the book will have this green cover and then it'll have gold embossing. A good description of the book is like I have a visual of it on the podcast actually, so you can see the cover and what it will look like. Now, this does take place over multiple books. The series unfolds. There is a lot that happens. I hope that people will find it as interesting and fun as I have writing the series and getting to know these characters. And I thank you for your time. I know that you have a lot of options in this world of things that you can listen to and of people that have something to share. So, the moment and the time that you took to listen to my story is very important and meaningful to me, and I appreciate it immensely. You can also find me on TikTok at Issa James and Instagram. I do have a website, and my business originally I had started out as a photographer. So a lot of the stuff on there right now is still to do with my photography. I'm sort of a polymath when it comes to work. I've done a lot of different jobs over the years. I've worked in accounting, engineering, pharmaceuticals, all different things. I've been anywhere and everywhere. I love learning and I love experiencing multitudes of things, but I finally have found my passion and I found a way to put all of these experiences together, and that is through writing and creating and speaking. So that is what the Sojourner is about. And I hope that you enjoyed this and thank you for joining me. And until next time, I think this will be a weekly thing where I read a portion, actually, maybe a daily, so that I can get the funding for the book out. So, daily portions of the book being read, and hopefully that will intrigue enough people that the funds start coming in to be able to get that beautiful hard copy that I want out in the world. I don't want to be, I know I could do a cheap version. I know I could get it out there like a cheap paperback version, but that doesn't feel right. To me, this feels like special. It needs to be encased in a special framework, and I want it to be beautiful. So if that means having to wait a little bit longer for that to happen, then so be it. But yeah, so if you do want to check it out though before, you can get the e-published version on Patreon. So thank you very much and have a wonderful day.